This is a show about facing fear, unlocking courage, and taking action.
Courage isn't necessarily a daunting thing.
It's going to give you more purpose. It's going to give you more drive.
It feels like making a courageous decision is going to get you closer to who you aspire to be.
It's knowledge plus faith plus action equals courage.
That just frames it for me, which is like, your job is to go after the big, hard, interesting things, because we unlock our greatness by working on the hard things. So how do you find the next thing you're going to struggle at and fail at, because it's you unlocking the best of you?
I'm not like the type of podcast host that starts with a quote. If vessels are funny. I know we are aligned on vessels, meaning sometimes if the vessel deserves a quote, like, I have my weekly dose of courage, and yeah, there'll be times when I'll start that with the quote, but rarely do I start a podcast with the quote. Dun, dun, dun. I'm going to start the podcast with the quote. In describing Michael Bungay Stanier's new book, here's the quote: actionable tactical strategies, and the wisdom is real. It sticks. And to be honest, when I look at the other quotes on the book, there's one other I like, but I'm starting with that one because this is the Courageous Podcast, and the godmother of courage, Brene Brown, is the one that shares this quip. Not a bad first thing you read, Michael.
It's not bad at all. But the quirky thing with Brene is I had somehow reached out to her and got to know her before she became super famous. So she actually reached out to me and asked me to blurb one of her books many years ago. And I'm like, one of us has come a long, long way in the world. The other is kind of treading water slightly. But she's been on a few podcasts I've done. I've been on her podcast and had some fun with that as well. So it was pretty exciting to get Brene to blurb the book, not least because she said she'd do it. And then the deadline passed, and then the next deadline passed, and then the next deadline passed. Turns out she had pneumonia, and her assistant was trying to go. I was like, well, she's near death's door. We don't need a quote. It's fine. But she got it in like literally the day of the book going to the printing press. So it was worth the wait.
I mean, my obvious first question is, who did she knock off the cover? You don't have to answer.
That's all right. You're right. I can't even remember. But I was like, if we got Brene, she's definitely on the front cover. She's a powerful person to have endorse you.
Well, I love the fact that, it's funny. I come from advertising, so like that. My background is, and I think we're going to talk a lot today about creative business. For a guy that's a company called Courageous, I actually see us more in the creative business, and I was taught that early, but I remember a long time ago, I wrote a line it was a film startup company. And the line was, before Steven Spielberg was Steven Spielberg, he was just Steven Spielberg.
Right.
And I mean, I think just the way you talk about before Brene Brown was Brene Brown, she's just Brene Brown. I'm sure she actually appreciates the realness. There's no puffery, puffery that comes with it. It's just,
there's puffery. Oh, I'm very sycophantic. Don't worry about that. But I didn't know. I mean, when I first met her, she had some sort of email like, I don't know, Brene@AOL.com. And at a certain point, that email just stopped working. And I tried to reach out to kind of maintain the connection and the relationship, but kind of was, politely rebuffed by the various kind of gatekeepers that now surrounded Brene, because, she's overcommitted and over in demand, I would guess. I was like, oh, well, that was cool. I skated with her for a while, and now she's off to bigger and better things. But then about, I'm not sure now, 3 years ago, maybe, she reached out, or her team reached out and said, would you like to be on Brene's podcast? And I'm like, let me think about that. Yes, I would.
Yes.
Yes, I would like to be on that podcast. And that was a great experience as well.
I mean, it's a testament to the whole theme of the current book, right? On the importance of sustained relationships. And it's funny. I was playing around. I don't think this is not a book, but like I love, like you love, just stepping back and looking at, is this going to be useful to people, and the ships, all the ships, like friendships and relationships. And I can see it's cool. It's like, again, you're living the book, the fact that you still have this relationship, that it's a slow cooked thing. It's not That's how it should be,
You
frankly.
know, what's that saying? The best time to plant an acorn is 20 years ago, but the next best time is to plant it now. So there is a way that your your work happens through people. And if you can build relationships with people who you think are cool and might have some influence as well as a bonus, then you're going to have some fun doing it. And there's a chance that your work gets to be amplified as well. And, you got to also balance in what is it called? Survivor bias, which is like, so Brene was an amazing early relationship and it kind of helped. And I can ask her for a blurb and I can be on her podcast. But at the same time, there's a bunch of people who I also met about the same time and stay connected with, and some I'm still connected with, and some I'm not, and they're not, stars on the world stage like Brene is. So you're also seeking people who enliven you, who just make you go, look, I'm a better person and I'm a more interesting person, and I just enjoy my life a bit better when this person's in my life. What does it take now to try and build and maintain those relationships?
Well, I think this is the almost in the title, right? I mean, when I read how to work with almost anyone, and when I read it, I think I think there's a business slant to it, but I don't see it as a business thing. I think because I came from marketing and advertising, all right, this is soapboxing, Michael, so forgive me, but like I'm trying to live a life where I'm designing it where it's like they taught me in marketing, pick a lane,
Right.
be clear on your lane,
Yeah,
go down that lane. And I think a lot of people what they do is their fear wins, and so they stay too wide
for
because like
sure.
they're not sure. It's survivor mode, like you said.
Yeah.
Versus what if I could design my life and I think about this stuff like my brain's crazy this way. So I'm trying to be intentional about, hey, if my company is called Courageous, which I think is there's tenets of curiosity inside that. I want to surround myself or put that bat signal or
Yeah.
cat signal in this case into the world. And by the way,
Yeah.
the Acorn commentary. I ran into your stuff for the first time 5, 6 years ago, and I
Yeah.
don't know if it was you or a bot or you or
Yeah.
what, but like I remember you had reached out to me on something you had seen, and
Right.
I was like, I love this guy. Like I love the way how thoughtful
Thanks.
you are, and this leads me to the back of the book cover, which is the line I really appreciated, which was actionable advice on every page. This is the part, and it's a fun read too. And like, hello, people, like don't like if there's not fun, if there's not entertainment inside the vessel,
Right.
what are we doing? Is that your mentality?
Well, yeah. The goal of a book is, at least a book in the kind of the books I write, which are kind of in that business and self-help genre, is what's the problem it solves? Is it clear what the problem is that it solves? And that's why the title, How to Work with Almost Anyone, it's the best of all my titles because everyone's like, I instantly know what's going on with that. I instantly know what the problem is, which is I can't work with almost anybody. And I instantly know it'd be better if I could work a little bit better with almost anybody. So it's a great title. Um, but then once you've got that, you're trying to write a really good book. And I think part of the measure of a really good book is, do people read it till the end? And you have to know that it's like everybody's finding it harder to read books. Okay, I'm a huge reader, and sometimes I'm like I'm just so distracted. How do I get to the end of a big book? So part of the design of all of my books is shaped by the question, what's the shortest book I could write that would still be useful? So they're all, a typical business book is probably 50 to 60,000 words, and my books are half that. It's like, well, it's like sticking to your lane. One problem, a short book. I try and make it as practical as possible. And I also, I find lots of business books and self-help books for that matter as well, very, very boring. And kind of smug and self-satisfied and preachy, and it's also serious. And I'm like, it is serious stuff. But for me, I'm like, my natural way of showing up in the world is a little bit punchy, a little bit provocative, and a little bit, attempt to be funny, and so having been writing one way or another for 30 or 40 years. I'm like, I've got a voice, I've got a style, and I'm trying to. I love it when people go, "I laughed out loud at your book." I'm like, yes, that's a good outcome.
Oh, well, that's not attempting to be funny, right? We've
Right, that's true.
graduated to funny, but I appreciate
No,
that you're
that's good.
like,
Well, thank you.
right? I mean, it's
Although
laughing out
there's
loud.
you have to know this. I throw out a lot of attempted jokes that die, that wither on the vine, and that's probably true in my books as well. I'm sure it's nice they laughed out loud at some of the jokes, but they probably didn't laugh out loud at all of the jokes, and that's fine.
I do think there's a little quantity to quality. I mean, it's not wasting people's time,
Right.
right?
No.
Right. But there's
But
some
I
quantity
love I love
quality.
a lightness of touch and a little self-deprecation.
Yeah.
That's something I aspire to, and I try and make it show up in my books a bit as well.
When you think about, and your first book was Coaching Habit, how do you describe, are you not, it might not have been your first book, that might have been your last book. I should probably be clear on that.
It's somewhere in the middle. Yeah.
How did, like, if you were going to just describe what you do you go coach, consultant, author? Do you have an order?
I mostly say that I'm a writer. I am an author for sure, because for me, an author is measured by, have you got a book? Have you actually written a book and published it? So yeah, I'm an author because I've written 8 or 9 books. I'm not a coach, even though I know a lot about coaching and I teach it. I don't actually coach people because I discovered early on in my business that, much to my surprise, I didn't actually love coaching people. It's certainly not as a business. I do ad hoc coaching, or all the time, but not actually build a practice. I mean, I built a practice. I had 20 clients, did that for a year or so, and then just went, this is not bringing me the joy I hoped it would. So what I like about, I mean, mostly I try and avoid the topic because I'm like, I don't know, I dabble. I've got a whole bunch of things going on. But, as a writer, what I like about that is it's less a profession, and it's more a way of showing up and orienting to the world. Because a writer is somebody who writes, and a writer is somebody who reads. And those are the two kind of key things that I try and do, which is like I try and create. So I also host podcasts and kind of build stuff around that. But a lot of it stems from, perhaps a level deeper than writer is a teacher. Which is like, in the end, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to
Totally.
teach people stuff. Yeah.
Totally. First of all, I don't think my question is selfish, but I do acknowledge that I'm constantly trying to, as a teacher, right? I'm
Yeah.
trying to learn. I'm trying to learn more about like my quest in the world and like what my role is in all this.
Yeah.
And there's been times where I've sparred with oh my gosh, I bet someone sees me on stage and is like narcissist. And I'm like, no, like I'm willing to do that if that's what it takes. Like if that's what it takes is
Right.
I have to get on the stage and that could just help one group get a little closer, have the conversation they're afraid to have. I am down
Well,
for
let me
that.
ask you this. What problem do you think you solve? If you had to give it to me in a sentence, what's the problem?
And I think this is wet paint. And I don't think that's a lack of clarity. I think it's evolving. I think the main problem is addressing. I'll use the marketing spiel. Brave the hard shit.
Yeah.
Brave what's hard. Like what is the hard thing? It's funny. I said notes to myself. I don't know if you do this. I email myself notes so I don't forget it. I don't have a lot of faith in my memory. That's sad. So I just sent one this morning. Its subject title. The subject title was The Talk.
Right.
It's the talk.
Yeah.
And it's like the talk that companies aren't willing to, they all know they need to have,
Right.
and they're losing a lot of time and it's hard. So I think it's the first inning is that what's hard, but it in the end it's really about getting to clarity as fast as possible so they can be aligned and pick up time.
So one of the things that I like, and I don't always pull this off, but when somebody says, "What do I do?" Here's a way of answering it. And I'm going to answer it, Ryan, as if I was you. I'm like, I'd say, so if I'm Ryan and somebody says, "So Ryan, what do you do?" I would say, well, you know how we unlock our greatness when we tackle the hard stuff? But you know how with the hard stuff, lots of us back away from it because it's hard and we don't know where to get started and we don't know how to do it and we're a bit scared by it. But you know that when we do step forward into the hard stuff, everything changes. You know, we see the next best version of ourselves show up. We see an ability to make a difference in the world, whatever our world is. Wouldn't it be great if figuring out how to do the hard stuff, be brave about the hard stuff? Wouldn't it be great if that was just a little clearer and a little easier and a little more supported? Well, that's what I do. I help people brave the hard stuff. And I mean, I've just made that up on the spot. And, you know, I do some of that myself. So I've got some of the words in my head. But what I like about that is it centers what you do in service to somebody else rather than describes the mechanics of how you do it. And what's also nice about that structure, which is like, but wouldn't it be great if? Well, that's what I do. Yeah. If they're not at all interested, they've got bored halfway through the conversation. You're like, I can stop talking to you.
Right, opt
And
out.
if they are interested, they go, well, how do you do that? And you're like, well, you know, I've got a bunch of things. I've got a boot camp. I do a podcast. I do writing. I do some training. I do some coaching. And it's like how do you do it? Well, there's all sorts of different modalities for how you might deliver it. But what's really interesting in terms of what do you do is who do you serve? What problem do you help them solve?
Yeah, I love already that we're like 20 in and I'm like, what do you do? And it's like author. It's like, wait a minute. No. It's not
Yeah,
it's not so much about you, it's who do you serve.
right,
Right.
right.
And by the way, I had like hair sticking up on the back of my neck as you were doing you. So I appreciate that.
Oh, my pleasure.
I always, it's really unfair to do a podcast because you learn, like you're constantly learning and growing just like, oh my God, I love that. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
what Michael said. I'll just play it and be like, what do I do? Hold on. Let me go play this clip. What Michael said.
If only
So
you'd hit record. Oh, you have hit record. That's fine.
yeah, woo, beads of sweat. So I think we're aligned on, it's like life is short, but you want to play. And I think play is a funny thing because I don't see it totally self-serving. I acknowledge like there's a part of it that is like, if I'm going to do this, there has to be energy in both directions. But like,
Yeah,
to me, it's more about what do I need to give you for this to stick with you? Like, I got to make this interesting or entertaining, or there has to be an energy
yeah,
exchange. When you think deeply about your books and you're trying to step back and look and go, is this going to land? What is your process like to making sure it's like easily digestible and
right.
practical, but fun?
Well, these are all good design questions. So one of them is this commitment around what's the shortest book I could write that would still be useful. So that helps me leave thousands and thousands of words on the floor as I take them out of the book. Secondly, is I try and work hard to. Somebody said I thingify concepts. There's a great quote which is like, I don't care about simplicity on this side of complexity, but I'd give anything for simplicity on the other side of complexity. So a key part of what I do, and turns out this is one of the things I'm okay at, is working a concept until it feels simple. But it's because I've kneaded the dough enough that it's gone through the complex phase into the simplified phase. So when you read How to Work with Almost Anyone, it's like you're trying to build a BPR, a best possible relationship. So now I've thingified an ambition. I was like, oh yeah, that would be helpful. What is it? What is a BPR? Well, it's safe and it's also vital and it's also repairable. So there's like three columns to a BPR. So now people are like, it's all a bit vague how to do psychological safety. But if a psychological safety tactically is build the best possible relationship with the people you work with, that's great. And then I'm like, so how do you do that? Well, I'm like, it's a keystone conversation. So that's another memorable thingified idea because it's like the keystone of an arch or even the keystone species in an ecological system. They're all metaphors that work. And then there's like, so how do I have a keystone conversation? A conversation about how you work together rather than what are you working on? where it's like, here are 5 good questions, and it took me months to figure out what are the 5 questions and what's the best articulation of the 5 questions and back and forth around that. So, it always makes me raise my eyebrows slightly when I read an Amazon review and they're like, this book was too short and too simple. I'm like, yeah, it's actually it's hard to get to simple. Most books are too long and too complex. So I don't mind erring on that other side. So there's those design principles. And then I want this book to be an expression of me. So who am I and how do I show up and what's my voice? I also just don't want it to be dull. I just listened to a podcast this morning where this guy, basically it's a podcast ranting against dull, which is like, and most business books are dull. They're just boring. And I'm like, I need it. So that's a bit about being a bit provocative, breaking some rules, doing things a bit differently, having a bit of humanity or authenticity or whatever you want to call it showing through. You know, all of this is in the mix. Sometimes I do it better than other times.
So I know this from our last convo, but you're about to go on a less than dull adventure. Can you share this adventure? And as you're doing it, I gotta ask, do you feel like you need to step away from the work and it makes you stronger when you come back to it? Or do you find when you go on adventures, I'm like, I know, sorry, folks, we'll get to the adventure in a minute. When you're there, like, oh, that's when the best work actually bubbles to the surface.
Well, the adventure is climbing a volcano in Ecuador called Cotopaxi. And Cotopaxi is pretty high. It's 6,000 meters or 19,000 feet. So that's thin oxygen. At 19,000 feet, you have about 70 or 75% the normal amount of oxygen. So it's a bit daunting, quite frankly. And, I signed up maybe 9 months ago. And because I'm not that good at detail, I didn't really read all the details. And then I sent the details to my wife, who is good at details, and she's like, "Did you read this?" And I'm like, "Mostly, I think." She's like, "Did you read the testimonial that says this is the hardest thing I've ever done, Olympic athlete?" I'm like, "No, I definitely did not see that." So I'm feeling a bit nervous about it. It's a week till I leave, and 2 weeks till I actually climb. And we're doing that mountaineering thing. We leave at midnight and we walk for 7 hours through thin oxygen and darkness with a little torch on our head, hopefully, probably to see a sunrise or see dawn at least at the top of a volcano. And then we spend 5 hours walking down again. So it's pretty big. And I can promise you, I'm spending zero time on that hike thinking about anything other than breathing and survival. But to answer your bigger question, I do know that I don't have my best ideas while I'm doing email. I have my best ideas when two things, when there's a problem that needs to be solved. So I'm like, I've got something in my subconscious and I know enough about how creativity works and how ideas work, which is like plant it and then let it kind of marinate and sink and kind of make weird connections that you don't even understand the connections, and stuff will show up. And so, I do things like in the morning, I journal and I write stuff down, and the writing just helps. And I read diversely. Like I'm in the world of self-help and business, but I don't just read self-help and business. In fact, I read more fiction and science and other nonfiction than I do those other two genres. So I I try and give stuff manure so that I get clear on what I'm trying to do.
I mean, first of all, I as a guy that has courage for a backdrop,
Yeah.
I mean, well, I'm definitely not interested in going with you
Yeah.
to
This
this.
has nothing to do with courage. This is poor attention to detail and impulsiveness. I can't claim this is a bold act. This is just a stupid act. And now we're going to see, I'm a 56-year-old man. So I'm in prime, stupid, middle-aged man territory as well, which is like, I'm 56, but I kind of think I'm still 36, but which means I kind of think I'm still 26. So, it's not I'm not confident about not making some stupid decisions.
Isn't the brain amazing? My
Some
favorite,
more stupid decisions. Yeah.
my
Yeah.
my favorite thing so far, like this week, I'd be walking by a mirror of myself, and I'd be like, "Who's that?
Right.
Who's this old person in my house? What are they doing here?
Yeah.
Intruder."
Yeah. Well, that saying, inside every old person is a young person going, "What the hell just happened here?" Yeah. Well, I am that person now.
Yeah. And then I also really appreciated your, again, I've always said about ideas, when you're in the ideal world, you have to almost detach and be unemotional about looking at emotional ideas. And
Right.
you sort of step outside of yourself. I think body jumping as a concept happens multiple ways. One, you step out of yourself and look back at it and go, is this going to land? Does it have
Yeah.
the emotional resonance? And the other, body jumping, is to step into the shoes of a consumer and be like, oh,
Right.
yes. But I really appreciate your point of view on, hey, brain, I respect you enough that I'm just going to plant the seed. And now I know you're going to go to work and do what you do. And I'm sure I'll hear from you soon.
Yeah. It's like there's a ripening. And if you can give yourself and your brain and your situation a chance to intermix and intermingle and for stuff to ripen, then that's pretty cool. That's kind of one of the miracles of how our brains work, I think.
I mean, your brain is basically on a volcano right now doing what it needs to do. Hopefully it comes back with an idea or two.
Yeah,
So,
hopefully.
so if there's a cocktail of you and you had to pour in like the makeup, what
Yeah.
percent what percent's introvert and what percent is extrovert?
Well, it depends a little bit on what you mean by those two terms because they get used in different contexts. I like, for instance, I'm a pretty good performer on stage. And in group situations, I can be kind of vaguely funny and charming and facilitatory and all of that. At the same time, when I come back from an event, I'm normally pretty drained, pretty knackered. Whereas my wife, when she comes back, if we've gone out and there's been a group of people, and I'm like, I am done, I'm off to bed. And she's like, I am alive. I want to keep partying. I want to have a drink. I want to talk it through. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm a great disappointment to you. I mean, I'm in many ways, I'm a great disappointment, but in that particular way, in that particular moment. So, I've done the Myers-Briggs test around this. Myers-Briggs, there's enough evidence now to say it's mostly a load of made up popinjay, but I'm pretty balanced. And according to Myers-Briggs, I'm pretty balanced in between extrovert and introvert. I probably nudge slightly to extrovert, but if you're a Myers-Briggs geek, there are kind of 5 subscales for each of the 4 main scales. So, extrovert introvert is one of the main scales. It has 5 subscales, and 4 of the 5 subscales tip to introverted, even though the overall score tips to extroverted. So make of that what you will.
In the spirit of courage, do you still have fear? Do you get fear? There's this famous proverb that fear and courage are kin. So I'm curious if
Yeah.
you still have fear or afraid, or are you just a Jedi at this point?
Well, I would probably answer that question by saying there are times, often, where I feel I have been timid rather than bold. And I don't think timid and fear are quite the same thing, but they're adjacent. So I don't often get somatically, viscerally afraid because a lot of the time, first of all, I've kind of done I, I kind of weigh up what's at risk, and it's almost never as much as you think. And for me, and this comes from a different one of my books, How to Begin. At the very end, there's a quote from the poet Rilke, which says his goal is to be the deeply defeated by ever greater things. So that just frames it for me, which is like, your job is to go after the big, hard, interesting things because just like we said when we were playing, it's like we unlock our greatness by working on the hard things. So how do you find the next thing you're going to struggle at and fail at, because it's you unlocking the best of you? So I've got some years of practicing that and believing that, so I get less afraid. I still catch myself backing away from reaching out, doing the thing, being bold about it in the way that I would like. So I'd say not afraid, but timid.
Is there a place in your life where you're like, I wish I had more urgency with X or on X?
Not urgency. And most of the time, it's like, I wish I had more patience and worked at a slower, steadier pace. We've just, as a team, we're a very small team, but as a team, we've set a 10-year goal starting 1st of January 2024 to sell 10 million copies of my books over the next 10 years. It's a very, very, very large goal. And I have no clear understanding of how I would go about doing that. But I also know that for me to commit to this project, it doesn't work like a million copies a year. It's a growth curve. It'll curve up. So, in let's say it's working, it means in the last year I'll sell 2 or 3 million copies of a book. In my first year, I'll sell 100,000 copies of a book if I'm lucky. And so I'm like, that's a, a, a 10-year game. It's like, it's not urgent, but I need to be steady and I need to be persistent. And that's often harder.
How do you, I guess as a podcast host, I have a lot of questions. I got a lot of questions today, but it's,
Oh, good.
how do you help people? This is less about you, because I like that you're looking for an immediate question that needs to be taken down,
Mm-hmm.
and you're looking for clarity on that. You're like constantly on the prowl, right? For clarity. How do you help somebody? This might be how to begin, right? This I may be promoting your book,
Right,
but
right.
like I do think you kind of have to think I feel like you need to think near the end and then work your way back. But is that how you see it, or is there a different process from your experience?
I'm not sure I have a clear process on this. Often it comes from an insight where I'm like, I don't think this is being solved very well at the moment. And for my stuff, it often is like, but how do I do that? The new book, How to Work with Almost Anyone. In some ways, it is a response to the question, all right, okay, I understand psychological safety is an important thing, but how do I do that? It's got to be more than just being nice. And, for how to begin, it's answering a question. I get when you're in midlife, you decide you want to climb the second mountain. You've climbed the first mountain of career and success, and you've got status, you've got money, you've got some of that, but you've still got another 20 good years ahead of you. How do you make the most of those 20 years? Like, what's the second mountain you're going to climb? A second mountain more about values and legacy. I'm like, yeah, but how do you do that? So how to begin is like, here's how you find a worthy goal, a goal that's thrilling and important and daunting for you. And for coaching and the coaching habit and the advice trap, those two books, which are kind of companion books, it's like, yeah, okay, so managers and leaders should coach because that's a better style of leadership. Yeah, but how do you do that? Like, it's coaching is weird and mysterious and woo woo and has a ton of baggage for a lot of people. Let me help make that feel really practical and useful for you. So a lot of what I do is go, yeah, but how do you do that? Let me show you how.
I always think when someone has made the choice to keep us between their ears, especially as we near the 45-minute mark, that's a data point in itself. And you try to stay thoughtful to the audience. So they're here for it. They're here for this conversation. And I'm not surprised. I mean, again, it's unfair to like get a chance to learn from you. And I described it recently, maybe even on a recent podcast. It's like going to dinner with somebody and then there's no bill at the end. And it's like,
Right.
and you can't, and you're not going to like throw the,
Oh,
you
there's a
know,
bill. I'm sending you a bill. Don't you worry about that.
oh,
It's like,
hello,
but I've sent you a bill. Yeah.
Michael, are you there? Hello. So for the audience, and again, it's
Yeah.
called the Courageous Podcast. How do you think, like, what do you think they need to hear that they haven't heard from you in terms of, because, and they might be at different levels, right? You've got some people that are just, they're not second mountain. Michael, hello, I'm on the first mountain, man. Come
Right.
on. Like, am
Yeah.
I even on the right mountain? Like, is this the right mountain?
Right.
So,
Exactly.
what do you think they need to hear? Or how can you help them?
Well, it's a big question because, who knows where people's heads are at and hearts are at and bodies are at and lives are at. But it reminds me of, was it King Solomon who asked his court jester? He's like, I need a piece of wisdom I can hold on to. So when times are good, I don't get too excited and I stay grounded. And when times are bad, I don't get too down and too depressed. And the court jester or whoever it was came back with a ring, and on the ring was engraved, "This too shall pass." It's like, when it's going really well, that's going to pass. When it's going really badly, that's going to pass. So hang in there. So I have a phrase that is not quite Solomonic, but I started off using it when I was facilitating groups, and it landed, and then I added it to my email sign-offs, and that is, "You're awesome and you're doing great." It you know, on its best days, it tries to do the same thing that "This too shall pass" does, which is like, look, whether it's good or bad or hard or easy or exciting or grind, wherever you're at the moment, you are awesome. Because that's just a thing you need to keep remembering. That person you are at the moment, that messed up, confused, brilliant, genius, doofus person, all of that, you're awesome and you're doing great. You're like probably doing the best you can. So keep going because tomorrow you too will be awesome and you too will be great.
Way to thingify that thing. Way to thingify it. And I love it. And it's funny, I definitely use this too shall pass,
Yeah,
but I use it, not surprisingly, I'm not using it on the positive shit. I'm using it when it's like, okay, this isn't going to feel so heavy 9 days from
right.
now.
Yeah.
I know it feels heavy now. Let's get, and then you speculate. So I'm like, okay, don't speculate. This too shall pass. But what I love and what you've already pressure tested and know since you've thingified this is the energy gain. The energy gain is so good. The multiplier, and you're awesome. You're doing great.
Yeah.
You're awesome, man. And I don't have to tell you. You can fill in the
Thank you.
blanks on the back. And I hope that this is not the last time that we jam. How
I'm
often
sure
do
it
you get
won't be.
to San Diego? Do you ever get down here?
I haven't been since pre-COVID, so it's been a while. But San Diego is a big conference town, so in the before days, I was in and out pretty regularly. And in fact, one of my very best friends lives in Encinitas, so just up the road from San Diego. So
That's where I am. Who is it?
yeah, his name is Eric Klein.
Or Eric?
Eric Klein.
Hey,
Uh,
Eric, you're getting a big shout out right now.
yeah. So Encinitas is a great town. So you're more likely to find me in Encinitas than in San Diego. So maybe we'll go for one of those great coffee shops.
Yeah, we'll hit the wall. We'll hit the water. We'll do a little walk. And you've unfortunately bubbled up at one last question that I gotta fire away with.
Yeah, ask away.
I I I feel like the concept of philosopher as a profession has left the building, but yet I kind of feel like it's needed now more than ever. And in some ways, I really appreciated your answer back on sense of urgency. It was like almost the opposite. It's like, hey,
Right.
whoa, actually slow down a little bit and make sure you know why you're doing the things that you're doing, which I
Yeah.
think philosophy is sort of like putting life on timeout and making you think. Eh, Do you see yourself as a philosopher that does make mistakes and is sometimes funny? And
I think the etymology of philosopher means lover of wisdom. I do love wisdom, but I don't love it for its own sake. So I probably come back to going, look, I'm trying to be a good teacher. And that's a bit facilitator, a bit philosophy, a bit, trying to make tools feel simple and accessible. So I don't think I can claim philosophy, but I also do, I do wrestle with those big questions that philosophers and spiritual travelers and teachers and all of those people kind of get to grips with. Also, I'm just old. So it comes with age.
Hey, good luck on the volcano. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for jamming today. And people, I don't have to tell you, he's got like 27 books. Pick up one of them. No. How to work with almost anyone. I wouldn't call it a parable, but what's nice is it's like super digestible and all for utility, man. Be good, Michael.
Thank you. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Courageous Podcast. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts so more people can find us. See you again next week.